I want to mention one other thing that is on.
Shit. Well, I have played the wrong intro because I didn't update that, so let me fix that real quick. Lots of technical difficulties today.
I want to mention one other thing that is on the horizon that people are only beginning to pay attention to, and that's the need to regulate the cryptocurrency markets. We're looking at not only states such as China or Russia or others manipulating technology of all kinds to their advantage. We're looking at non-state actors, either in concert with states or on their own, destabilizing countries, destabilizing the dollar as the reserve currency. There are so many big questions that the Biden administration must address. I just don't think we have much time. And therefore, I hope from everything I'm hearing from them that that's exactly what they're going to try to do.
For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using one.
What? All right, well, welcome to Toxic Airwaves. I have no idea what just happened. I guess I didn't upload or export my new intro for this week, but anyways, good to have you on, Don. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, man. Long time coming.
Yeah, no, it has been. It's good to how did you find the show in the first place?
So I was on the road up in Michigan, and I don't know honestly how I came across it, but it came across the first time you guys were live. So I hopped in, and it was right up my alley. You guys were saying some bass shit. So I was like, all right, let's do it.
What were we talking about in the first episode? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Let's see.
I don't know. Probably shitting on Killary and the rest of the child raping elite class.
I think, yeah. Okay, the very first one was about Raoul Paul and ICP token.
Okay. That makes sense then. Yeah. That was internet computer or whatever the hell that shitcoin was.
Yep.
God.
The one that like started at like when the did the ICO, it started at like $500 and then is trading at like 40 today.
It was a sharp ledge that it came down off of too.
Yeah. Raul got really upset that Max Kaiser was shitting on him about that one because Raul was promoting it. So
yeah. Well, I think that was the sad thing is that was his first pump and dump shitcoin experience, and it didn't even turn him away. It almost made him embrace the shitcoins more.
Yeah. It's like, I've been doing this my whole life on Wall Street. This is right down my alley.
It's absolutely pathetic.
Was he a Goldman guy? Was that his thing?
Yeah, he was a Goldman guy.
What a moron. So
yeah, it's the thing is I'm sure it's nothing new for him to be ripping people off.
Yeah. No, I mean that's just the whole Wall Street model. So when Joe Biden's out there and he's like, even Wall Street agrees, it's like, oh, you mean all the assholes that are screwing everybody over agree with you?
Right. It doesn't help his credibility at all.
No, fuck Joe Biden. I mean, sorry. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. It seems like.
So we got Lurk, B-Calv, and AK-47 in the chat. Lurk says beer is cracked. LFG. Sorry.
Cheers, Lurk.
I've got a beer glass, but I've got LaCroix in it. So Arizona Beer House. Second favorite bar in Tucson behind our sponsor, Dirtbags.
Weren't you just there filming your documentary?
Yeah, so
working on it.
Yeah, dude, it's absolutely nuts. So I was at this restaurant, and you know, you go and you talk to restaurants, and the stuff that's hitting them really hard right now, or just anybody. I mean, it's, you've got these single items that are you know, getting destroyed. So they were buying, so like prior to I don't know what to call it, the hysteria of 2020 and the insanity, they were buying plastic cups for 4 cents a cup, which is, you know, more expensive than I thought it would be if you're buying it in bulk. And now they have a lot of struggles to find them, and they're buying them for like 14 cents a cup. And then Tucson increased minimum wage, which totally screws up their staff's you know, pay structure and for the business, because the staff make all their money off of tips. So they get paid like a hourly rate, which is not very much, and then they make an absurd amount of tips, and so that's gonna screw that up for them, and it just increases the overhead. Like everything is just so like all over the place, and you know, it just, like, one thing that's super interesting to ask is just like, how are your employees handling inflation? How are they handling the gas pump and increased prices and all that bullshit? And you're like, I don't know. That's insane. But,
God. So how does that work with the minimum rate hike? Does the base labor, or like the base hourly wage go up, and so therefore the restaurant doesn't give them as much of a percentage of tips?
I think their tips stay the same, but I think it impacts how many people they can employ.
Okay.
So like if you have 2 people employed and there's like $1 increase, that's like $2 an hour increase for the company over, you know, 7 days a week, you know, however many hours they're working for. So
okay, so that's probably, I guess, not where I'm at, but that could be an explanation as to why there's less employees working at a restaurant these days. It seems like you're always waiting and they're always understaffed. So that almost exacerbates the employment problem that's already happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, minimum wage is a price control, you know, ultimately. And anytime you set a floor on something, it totally gets everything wonky. Like, wages should rise and fall depending on, you know, supply and demand, like everything else, and things will even out. And like, one of the things that people don't like to factor in when they're talking about wages and, you know, why they feel like they need a minimum wage is the reason why employees don't have any bargaining power with their employers, because, you know, all their savings are debased and they're getting fucked. and so it's like, yeah, no, it's not just like we're gonna take this away and let the, you know, greedy capitalists or whatever anybody, you know, says, just like enslave everybody. It's like, no, in doing this, you empower the individual, because the problem is ultimately government intervention. Once again, government intervention is totally screwing everybody. It's unnatural. It's like, yeah. Well, yeah. So AK-47 says, heard Skeef came down with climate change syndrome again. Can't make it. Yeah. You know a little bit more about that, Don. What was his issue?
Well, I heard he was preparing Janet Yellen's bathwater, and then he slipped and fell on a Moderna jab and caught a case of the winter vagina. Yeah. So Skeef, we got you in our good wishes and prayers. That winter vagina is a nasty thing.
Yeah, make sure to reach out to Skeef and tell him don't, since he accidentally got jabbed, to not go out and play soccer or anything.
Yeah, he might get blood clots.
Yeah. I don't know. I tried to look into that a bit, and there's so many factors that it could be. And this is the problem, like, with, you know, vaccines in general, is like there's just so much going on. It's sometimes hard to, you know, explicitly point the finger at it, you know, because people could have gotten COVID and COVID could have impacted their cardiovascular system and screwed them up, or they could have all been, doping on some bad dope and, going down, or, but, ultimately I think we all know what the reality is here. It's just hard to definitively say this is the thing. There's some plausible deniability for those maniacs. So,
yeah. And I think that's one place where sometimes we don't give the state enough credit, even though we hate to do so, but they leave things ambiguous so that you can't really pinpoint it down and say, okay, this is the reason you were causing this. The problem is you. There's so many other factors that they leave open, or other variables that they let influence what's happening, that they can always kind of say, well, there's not really proof. And that's definitely the case with all these heart issues. And that we're finding in athletes, that I think is due to the vaccines, but we won't ever know because they leave everything so open-ended.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is like, it's just the name of the game. And it's like, if you talk to somebody out there that's been vaccine injured recently or ever, because I used to be pretty, skeptical of like the anti-vax community, and I went and approached some people that are very, active in, they're anti-vax activists, and you talk to them and they've all had negative experiences. Their kids have had negative experiences, and then they go out and they try and get help, and then the doctors just totally, ignore them and tell them it's something else. And, then, the media just demonizes them, and it's just, yeah, it's totally screwed up. But
yeah, it's almost a lose-lose for them, right? They take whatever vaccine is offered to them, and their kids have issues, but they don't take it and they go try to get help, and they still can't get what they're looking for. So there's really no good way to go about it. It's extremely unfortunate.
Yeah. It's not a very, I mean, once you peel the curtain back and look at the, what's actually going on underneath of everything, it's pretty sinister and awful. And, I saw this a lot in the criminal justice system. I'm working in drug rehabilitation, and yeah, I mean, but I think this is kind of like where we come in. It's just like trying to promote these principles. I don't think we're going to ever, fix anything through voting, because you've got two groups of lemming despots fighting each other to have control over everybody else, and entering into that game is a waste of time. And so we just kind of have to exit it and, try and educate people and bring them into our circles. And, it's going to be a long game fighting this tyranny. I think until we get rid of the state, it's going to be multiple generations, but I hope it happens. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's an age thing. So like you remember those chain emails that used to go around? So my grandma sent me one today, and it was basically an explanation of how politicians will do whatever they can to get reelected, which we all know. And then there was like a paragraph in there that was quoting Warren Buffett, saying if the deficit is ever over a certain percentage of GDP, then politicians aren't going to be reelected. And my grandma was like, let's vote for Warren Buffett. He knows what's good. And I responded back. I was like, none of these people are ever going to help us. The entire incentive structure is in place so that they could stay in power. They're incentivized to do the things that help them get reelected. None of them, and nobody that we elect, nobody that we vote for, will ever turn that around and actually try to accomplish what we voted for them to go in office and do.
Yeah.
So it's hopeless.
Except for Donald Trump, a really unpopular TV host or game show host, is going to fix everything. He's the exception.
Don't worry. We'll grab America by the pussy.
Yeah. The incentives are just totally screwed. So yeah, let's catch up with the chat. So Lurk says, I got back from the grocery store and 4 bags of groceries. It was $71. I think the big reason for less employees working is because nobody wants to wear a mask for 8 hours at a restaurant. I think that's good.
Agreed. I think there's a class division thing there too with the masks in the restaurant. It's very evident and cruel, honestly.
Dude, I was at a wedding a little while back in California, and all the people at the wedding weren't wearing masks, and all the staff at the venue were wearing masks, and it was horrible. Like, it was like I'm at the Met Gala right now. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. Absolutely awful.
Yeah, I should have worn a dress that said "Tax the Rich." AK-47 says, I had a patient who got the vaccine at 2 years old and became completely nonverbal with autism. He was already showing signs of autism before the shot, but was verbal. I would not give kids vax after this hysteria. Yes.
God, that's awful.
Dude, you know, this happened. So my mom, I've got 3 cousins that are autistic on both sides of the family, and on my mom's side, she made a joke about people that thought the vaccine gave their kids autism, and the mother of the autistic kid got really upset because in her circles, you know, it's like, I don't think your typical person, you know, hangs out with a bunch of parents that have autistic kids, but because she does, and there's tons of people out there that swear by those situations. It's like the same situation. It's like you come out against the narrative and you're just blacklisted from society pretty much, and shunned and treated like shit. And yeah, tons of stories like that. And yeah, AK-47 says it was a regular vax, not COVID vax. So yeah, I mean, that's been a thing. But I mean, you get into it, and there was like one study that pointed to that, and you know, the whole medical community says that study's been debunked. So it's just
right. And then there's not, but they say it's been debunked, and what kind of proof have they offered?
Well, they have data and they have proof, and the problem is like, if you go and you listen to Texas Slim talk about the food supply and just how the FDA and USDA have totally been bought out, and there's just so many examples of this. Like, I mean, you just go back a few years with the opiate epidemic and looking at, you know, how Purdue Pharma and, you know, other groups were, you know, presenting these things as presenting Oxycontin as non-addictive. Like, and the FDA totally signs off on it. Like, it's your data is bad, your studies are bad. I mean, it's like,
yep. That's the thing. They can manipulate the test that they do. So they fix a couple variables. They know which one is going to be moving around, and they dress up the study in a way that they know the results are going to be a certain way, and then they can take those results and publish them like it's truth.
Mm-hmm.
And most of that's entirely due to funding. And they won't get that funding to study whatever this is that they're interested in studying unless their results appear in a certain fashion. Yeah. And so no matter what, they go into this scientific experiment already knowing what the outcome is going to be. They just have to, the experimental portion of it is trying to manufacture this data and these results in a way that doesn't look conspicuous or doesn't look like there was a bias involved.
Yeah. No, that's, yeah. I mean, there's like an easy solution to this too. And
what's that?
I mean, it's just free markets. I mean, it's like you can have private organizations, like, if you look at it, you look at the CDC, you look at the World Health Organization, you look at, you know, the FDA, you look at, you know, whoever, and they only exist essentially because of government. Like that's the sole reason why they exist. There's no alternative. You know, they're funded through coercion, essentially, and you remove the government, and then at that point, if you have a corrupt organization that is proven to be corrupted like that, people aren't going to give their money to it, you know, whereas people will privately pay. Like, there's an example I like to use a lot is Underwriter Laboratories. It was in their headquarters was in the town that I grew up in, but like a lot of equipment, you know, that people use, like if you look at your like I don't know, like hair dryer, you know, something like that, you know, could be potentially dangerous if is defective. It'll be tested by Underwriter Laboratories, and companies go and they get that approval. They go and they, you know, test the shit out of it to ensure that it's like a decent product. It's not going to light your hair on fire. And, you know, you can apply that same exact idea to everything, to medicine, you know, and it's going to be a lot more, well, one, it's going to be more moral because it's not funded through coercion. And then two, it's going to be more effective. So,
yeah, I think that slowly but surely the trust in these studies will deteriorate. I think we're already seeing it, simply because the access to information is there. And so governments and all these old clowns still running the government still believe that they can come out with all these results and this data and kind of force it onto the people. But now there's the access to information is so widely available that it allows for private organizations like what you just described to become more prevalent as people learn how to kind of sift through what's right and what's wrong. I think they'll slowly gravitate towards that.
I see Lurk's comment.
Yeah, Lurk's coming at my throat. Don, is it true your wife's boyfriend runs your Asics at his house? That is not true, but I heard your wife's boyfriend holds your Bitcoin. He worked for BlockFi.
So, yeah, Jackie Moon has a thread. So men who get vaxxed wax their chest. Agree. They probably don't eat. They eat too much soy, so they stop growing chest hair. My financial advisor's secretary got vaxxed while she was pregnant and nearly lost the baby and is still in the hospital fighting for her own life. Yeah, it's insane. I don't know why pregnant women, not pregnant people, pregnant women, I don't know why they get vaxxed. It's been about a month she's been in the hospital. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Enough about the vax. Okay. Well, last thing I'll say on that topic. So I think the reason why we haven't gotten banned is because algorithms and AI just really aren't that impressive. And they're a lot of these technologies that are promoted as like being the next revolutionary thing. And it's just really just a bunch of vaporware. And I think AI fits into that. It's like Giacomo Zucco had a really interesting thread about this. So AI, what's the other one? AI, renewable energy, and whatever the special computing is.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Well,
so.
I think AI in general, I think it's like a buzzword. It's the same way people used to use the term blockchain. It's all bullshit. It's trying to build hype around something that isn't what it's made out to be. It's a new technology that people don't understand. And so people can push these buzzwords to get other people's buy-ins, whether those buy-ins be capital, belief, what have you. It's just another form of manipulation.
Yeah.
Manipulation of the 80%.
Yeah. I gotta say, I totally used to buy into those buzzwords, and I remember I bought into 5G super hard, and I thought it was going to be the next revolution that was going to change everything. And oh yeah, quantum computing. Yeah, sorry, I had a massive brain for it. Yeah. Well, this is something that has me like super bullish on the current generation of miners because I think quantum computing. I think we've really hit our limit on what's the word? on
chip size.
Yeah, chip size. And so I don't think that we're anywhere near quantum computing, and that there's going to be major constraints from the chip side of things, and that you're going to be able to do things like upgrade your power supplies and stuff within that to be more efficient in the future.
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. I think we move towards, on the mining side of things, I think we move more away from a hardware revolution like it's been since 2009 and more into a software revolution. You can kind of see that already with what Brains is doing with their operating systems. And I forget where I saw this, but I saw something on Twitter the other day, and it basically said, what if Brains comes out with the new firmware for the S19s before the new X19 XPs ship? Well, the S19 XPs at 150 terahash won't look so impressive as opposed to your S19J Pro running Brains, which was a 110 terahash machine that might be getting 138 terahash now. That increase just isn't as exponential as it's been in the past. And I think that's another reason we could see these older machines last hell of a lot longer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I'm pretty bummed that Brains doesn't have any firmware for the S19 released yet, and I get why, but I sit here impatiently waiting. But yeah, there's other players getting into the game too. Like there's one called Vinash, and then there's another one, I forgot its name.
There's from what I understand, there's always been a lot of different firmwares that you can install in your miners. The issue is, just like anything else in Bitcoin, is there's bad actors and there's some sketchy people. So you could hypothetically you could upload one of these firmwares to your rig, and yeah, you could get a 10 or 15% increase, but in reality you're getting a 20-25% increase, and the other 5 to 10% of your hash rate is getting siphoned off and going to this third party.
Yeah.
And so it can be really sketchy.
Yeah, speaking of that, what's guaranteeing that Bitmain doesn't already do that?
Nothing. That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
Don't really know.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's tons of speculation that Bitmain like mines with the miners before shipping them out to people and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and that's also been why, or I guess a lot of speculation around that has been why they're historically late to deliver ASICs, at least new generation ASICs, because they've got them all running.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all.
No.
What pool is Bitmain? What do they oversee? Ant pool? Is that what it's called?
Ant pool, yeah. And the scary thing is yeah, like some people, you say that and some people will be like, well, my miner looks brand new. Well, the expensive part of your miner is what's inside. And so for all you know, they could just be swapping hash boards. And so they run these miners, they take them apart, they swap the hash boards into brand new outer components, and then they ship them off. And as far as I know, there's really no way to nail down whether or not that's happening.
Yeah, and then there's also like the factor of like you can clean the hash boards, and you can like most of the like when miners come in and there's super dirty, it's because people leave them in dirty places, for the most part, and they like suck bugs and things like that. And so you can set up some pretty hardcore, airtight facilities that don't have those same issues and run them without even having to clean them,
Yep. Yep. And then they could easily get away with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited at the idea of other companies like Blockstream getting into the ASIC hardware realm. But I think it's going to be a long time coming. I don't see it coming for like 2 to 3 years potentially.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a little bit, at least 2 to 3. before they start shipping anything. But diversity in that space is extremely important. I don't think that can be stressed enough.
And then the other thing that's really tough is like we're really limited on the types of chips that are out there. There's only 2 chips, so you can get pretty much Samsung and whatever the Taiwan company is, TCMP.
TSMC.
TSMC, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And that having 2 people produce all of their chips can never be a good thing. It's pretty easy to collude and make market prices if there's just 2 companies involved.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a theory that I heard this week too. Is like, how do we know there's a difference between Bitmain and MicroBT? How do we know that they're not technically, the same company? So yeah, interesting stuff to think about.
It's interesting, especially with the connections they've had historically.
Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, hopefully we'll see. Fortunately, I don't think this impacts Bitcoin security. It just impacts the mining markets, which is rough. There's unneeded constraints and expanding, which is probably bullish for home miners, but it sucks.
Yeah. Why do you think the other companies besides those 2 have never really been extremely competitive in the ASIC market? Like you've got Canaan, Avalon,
Dragon Man.
Dragon Man. Yeah, Dragon Man. But nobody's really come out with anything that's stuck around like those 2 companies.
I just don't think the market's big enough.
Okay.
I just think it's super niche because, like, if you look at the Bitcoin mining market, it's minuscule comparatively to other electronic components. So I just don't think there's been interest, and it's so specialized. Like, it's just I mean, if you're selling like laptops to people, there's a million things that people can use laptops for. But if you're selling ASICs, there's only one thing you can use an ASIC for. So the market, in that realm is going to be a lot smaller. And it's just, I think as the Bitcoin price goes up, you're going to see more. I think there's going to be an arms race for mining. And I think mining's, ultimately going to be the thing that really changes the game. Yep. Zorn, welcome to the stream. You're not that late. So that's just my thoughts on it, but there could be other reasons.
No, I think that makes sense because a lot of I saw a stat, there's like the equivalent of 1.5 million S19s online right now. But if you think about it, there's it's 100% not 1.5 million people with miners, right? So there's large quantities of miners that are under one roof or under that one party has control of. And in that case, everybody has a preference on what they're using. So if they've got a bunch of Bitmain miners, they're going to stick with Bitmain miners, mainly due to replacement parts.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Do you run any What's miners?
I do not. Only Bitmain. And for the reason I just described, I don't want to have 2 different types of spare parts.
Yeah. I've been thinking there's a lot of, just to be controversial for controversial sake.
Let's do it.
Yeah. You want to be publicly a Bitmain maxi?
That's probably not what I want to tout myself as publicly, but I'll be a Bitmain maxi for this situation.
I thought about doing it just to stir the pot. I think that'd be super funny. Like go pick a fight with Neil or Hodl Tarantula, the guys that love What's Miner.
Love the What's Miners. No, I've just heard the What's Miners are more durable. And I have had a hash board go down in an S19, which sucks. And really with no explanation. So it is what it is, but I haven't heard many problems at all with the What's Miner units, especially the M20s. I heard those things are tanks.
Dude, they're
You can run
unbelievable.
them whatever conditions, dirty, clean, hot, cold. They're tanks.
Yeah, so I haven't pulled an S19 apart yet, so I'm not sure what all the inner components are, but I've played around a lot with the S9s. I've looked a little bit at the S17s, and I pulled apart an M20, and it was unbelievable. So the heat sinks are one piece on both sides, and then the hash boards are screwed in, and instead of having like these stupid ribbon wires go in, they have these metal relays, and I think the S19 might have something similar as far as like a bar transferring the electricity from the control board to the hash boards, but the M20, it took me like 15 minutes to pull the thing apart because it's so solid, whereas like an S9 takes me about 45 seconds to open it up. So
Okay. I know that the S19s definitely have ribbons going from each hash board up to the control board.
gotcha. I had one with the top off, and I saw that they had those relay board, or I don't know what to call them.
Yeah, but they are easy as hell to take apart, like you were
Yeah.
saying. So if the M20s take forever to take apart, it's typically a good sign.
Yeah. No, it was such a pain in the ass because like everything is screwed in. Like the hash boards are screwed in. It's not held by like a piece of like a little metal plate. So
Yep.
yeah. And then yeah. Yeah. We're all big fans of Jihan on this. We're Bitmain maxis.
Go fuck yourself, Blair.
I get that's the problem with it. I'd have to like revert back to being a big blocker to be a big Bitmain maxi.
I know. That's why I was so offended about the Bitmain maxi comment. I can't do it. It makes me look like I drown in Bcash.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, speaking
absolutely despicable. Go ahead.
Speaking of Bcash, so Craig Wright's been all over Twitter again. Are you following what's happening with that?
No, I haven't seen him all over Twitter, but I was definitely following the trial notes from Fractal.
Okay. So I went down a Calvin Air wormhole last night. What's going on with the trial? I haven't looked at it.
Well, so basically, Craig Wright's defense attorney, his defense was, my client's a liar, and therefore, because he's such a habitual liar, you can't believe anything that he says. And so all of this needs to get thrown out the window. And that was the defense. It was purely based on him being a habitual liar. And so a lot of what I saw was, okay, well, if this is his defense here, how does this affect all the other lawsuits he has going with people?
Yeah.
Because he tries to sue anybody that puts his name in their mouth. Yeah. What's been going on with Calvin Ayre's Twitter?
Oh, so Canicarus was posting about CoinGeek, and I've seen a few posts about CoinGeek, so I went and read some articles by them, and it's such trash. It was like he started a like a Cointelegraph knockoff to promote BSV pretty much, and it's just total trash. But Calvin Ayre's just posting left and right about how Craig is Satoshi, and how BSV is so great, and like how they're able to do NFTs on the base layer of BSV, and like some guy, I don't know. I was looking at it right before I went to bed, so I was kind of tired. So I was thinking about starting a fight with them about it, but I chose not to. Chose to go to sleep, which is a good decision. But some guy posted he had like built a really nice schematic of an AK-47 that model that he'd like 3D print or machine or something, and he has it on the BSV blockchain, and it's like, and Calvin retweets it like, yes, BSV is the real Bitcoin because of this. It's like, okay, you have pictures on your protocol base layer. How does that make it good money?
It's horrible. It's because the blocks are so empty. They need something to fill them with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's mining BSV. I mean, somebody asked me.
Air.
Yeah, I guess.
At one point, I think like 6 months ago, I remember seeing that well over 50% of the hash rate was controlled by like 2 or 3 actors.
Yeah.
So it's Craig Wrong, thanks Zorn, and Calvin Air. Lurk says, Calvin Air rabbit hole, did you think about smoking crack after?
I didn't, but I probably should have. I probably would have understood what was going on his Twitter a little bit better after smoking crack. Or actually, I probably wouldn't have, because I would have been so hyper focused. I would understand even more why it's stupid. But yeah, can we rename him to Craig Wrong? I think you're getting the chat a little bit quicker than I am, so I haven't seen Lurk's comment yet, but that's fine. Yeah, maybe there's some weird upper limit where if you collect too much Bitcoin, it drives you crazy and you lose your keys, credibility, and coins. I don't think so.
There could be some truth to that.
Well, I could see, like, if you have too much Bitcoin, it'd drive you crazy, but not the other part.
Yeah. I mean, something's got to be going on for those guys to believe what's coming out of their mouth.
I don't know. I mean, some people are just compulsive liars. You ever met somebody that's a compulsive liar?
Yeah. I have one buddy growing up. Absolutely compulsive. Extremely difficult.
I had a buddy that was a compulsive liar, and like his whole family knew it. And so when we were over at his house, we had a code word for when we knew he was lying, and we would snap. And everybody would just kind of like look at each other, and like he never caught on to what we were doing, but yeah, it's
tough to be around.
Yeah, is Mike Alfred a compulsive liar?
He's got 35 streams of income. Have you seen that Telegram group that's like Bitcoin Twitter deleted tweets?
No.
So there's a bot on Telegram that's following a bunch of people on Bitcoin Twitter, and if a tweet gets deleted, it'll post it in this Telegram group and then post how long it's been since the tweet was made to when it was deleted. Mike Alfred posted one that was like, I have 35 sources of income, like I don't need your shit or something along those lines, and then deleted it like an hour later.
I saw that before he deleted it. That's pretty funny. If he had 35 miners, would you count that as 35 sources of income?
In his mind, probably. He's the same guy who in a mining group immediately started talking about how he thinks that virgin coins, so coins that get paid out from the block reward, how those are worth more than regular Bitcoin, which is some of the absolute dumbest shit I've ever heard.
No, that's smart, actually. Because that's like something a spook would say. That's like a really good attack vector against Bitcoin, because if you can break down its fungibility, you can really hurt it as a monetary unit.
Yep. It definitely sounds like something a spook would say.
Yeah.
Anybody that pushes that at all either has bad intentions or just doesn't fully understand Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And either way, with the way he's trying to portray himself. It's not a good look.
Yeah. So Lurk says he's supposedly 5'3", so that could be another argument for him being a spook. Yeah, no, I mean, nothing against short people, but a lot of people that are short like that have a inferiority complex and would be perfect for being a spook. It's like, give me a little bit of power over people. But yeah, I don't know. Spooks are so stupid. I think that's something that we have going for us. They're not intelligent individuals. Lurk says, I run a brothel. I only have 34 sources of income, but it gets very loud. And some sources don't show up to work from time to time. Damn. That's kind of funny.
Tough situations, Arn.
Yeah.
Maybe if you increase the minimum wage in your area, they'll show up to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on the topic of prostitution, so like personally, I really don't like it. And you know, like I initially like was studying social work and wanted to work with you know, individuals that you know, were in that line of work and help them transition out. And I did some of that. I worked with a lot of people that were sexually abused. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's something that like will always exist. And so I think the question around it, like the solution is like, how do we ensure that it's voluntary and that people aren't getting, you know, into these awful situations and getting coerced into it where they have like some pimp essentially enslaving them and hooking them up on drugs and, you know, doing all the emotional abuse and stuff like that. But
so that's an interesting one because it's like such a dark, may not be the right word, but like a look down part of society that it inherently brings these bad situations. And so what can you do to get away from those? Do you regulate it? Well, how much has regulation worked in the past? It always kind of throws things up in the air. Well, if you don't regulate it, then because of the nature of the work, they kind of find themselves in situations with pimps or kind of aggressive controllers.
yeah.
So I don't know what the solution is there. But my stance on it, I think do what you want to do, but as soon as it becomes as soon as you're under somebody else's control and you're not making the choice to do what you want to do for yourself, it's no longer a good thing or no longer productive.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the fact that it's illegal is like one thing that blows my mind in the criminal justice system is like the people that tend to be prosecuted are the actual prostitutes and not the pimp or the Johns, or, you know, they're essentially going out and finding these people that have traditionally been victimized and, you know, shuffling them into prison, jail, and it just makes no sense. So like I know like in some places in Nevada it's legal, and you know I don't know, it's definitely like a hard moral dilemma, and I think like, you know, what it comes down to is like how do we this is what attracted me to Bitcoin so much, you know, when I first got interested in it, was I was seeing how if you fix a base layer of society, or of the economy, in money, you fix a lot of the issues, and people aren't as likely to, you know, suffer from, you know, whatever. Like, I mean, if you look at the majority of people in prison went through the foster care system, you know, for example, and like what feeds kids into the foster system? Well, it's what economic instability is a massive part of it. Like divorce rates go up tremendously with inflation. You can look at WTF happened in 1971. They have a great chart on that. It's, you know, people not being able to afford, like, you know, the water bill, stuff like that. and all of those are exasperated because of inflation and taxation, government, and Bitcoin breaks that down. And so, you know, I think it's less of an issue ultimately in the long term of like, I mean, I just think you have to have good money to be in this world to, you know, really build a strong moral base behind you, or else you're just operating in kind of reaction and whatever's easier, pleasurable. And that's why we see our society all over the place. So yeah, Zorn says we'll never get rid of it, but I think hard money, it could be minimized. Hard money promotes stable families. Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. It comes back to the whole incentive thing. Hard money shifts incentives. People can sit on something that's valuable, that will go up in value, not be debased. Yeah. So therefore, they don't have to put their lives and their bodies on the line as often or as frequently.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. We won't have shit coining in a hard money world, which will be good. It's or what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say, what about Cum Rocket?
The memes are gonna be danker. Yeah.
Cum Rocket ends prostitution.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of sit on the periphery of like the Libertarian Party, and it's interesting like how many sex workers are interested in the Libertarian circles and anarchist circles. But I just, you know, and I think like ultimately it's like we cannot, it's not helpful to stigmatize people in those positions. I think it's helpful to stigmatize people that are putting, you know, abusing other people, you know, ultimately, and taking advantage of people, because that's not correct. They're breaking the zero aggression principle, and they're infringing on people's, you know, private property and their body and themselves and their identity. But yeah, Lurk says hard money is a mere use case. It is the foundation of civilization itself. But yeah, I mean, you just look at like who are the people that we're going to reach and help? It's not going to be the Wall Street bankers, and it's not going to be, you know, the rich liberal yuppies. You know, it's going to be those people, the people that have been fucked by society, you know, the anti-vaxxers that have had a kid that have had a bad reaction, and are totally screwed up for the rest of their lives. It's, you know, the people that have been thrown in prison for, you know, victimless crimes, and it's the people that, like the sex workers. And it's interesting that Bitcoin has such a, you know, long, rich history with that industry. And I think ultimately that's, you know, probably a good thing. So,
yeah, like Bitcoin makes the playing field even, so there isn't a need for this extra regulation. Just like in prostitution, it's illegal everywhere, so they're forced into these bad situations. Well, why did they make it illegal? Why did they regulate anything? Because they think, they being the government, thinks that they can even the playing field through regulation. Well, the only way to truly even the playing field is by a hard base money that everything else is built on top of. So it eliminates the need for some of that regulation.
Yeah.
For most of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah, I like that. Yeah, we're gonna get rid of the regulators, and that's something that's super excited. Our dogs are gonna be safe from the ATF because of Bitcoin in the future. But yeah, I mean, kind of on this topic, like what gets me super excited about Bitcoin mining is like how it really promotes agorism in a new way, because it seems like mining is the best way right now to get non-KYC coins and to start circulating them into your local community and creating circular economy. So if you set up a miner, you're mining a bit, you're going to have to, spend fiat to pay for your energy bill as of right now. And maybe the way that you can do that is, going and trading at your local Bitcoin meetup, or, trading goods and services with people. You can be buying food. I mean, food's going to be a massive issue in the future. And I think it's really important that we start, focusing on how do we, find ways to get meat and not eat soy-based bullshit. And having, local farmers and supporting them, or, even just people raising pigs or cows and small plot of land, or whatever it is super, super important. And like mining just makes a lot of sense. Like I find it easier. I've been finding it easier to sell people on mining, like normies on mining and business owners on mining, than I am on accepting Bitcoin as a payment, which I'm finding super interesting. So,
yeah, I think a lot of people like to have that continuous cash flow. That stream of income is important to them. And I think one misconception a lot of people have on like the self-sustained mining front is, you hear, okay, I'm going to hook up some miners, then you'll hear some people talk about, oh, I'm going to put some solar panels up to power these miners. Well, I think those are in direct competition with each other. Why would you spend money on bringing on this alternative energy source when you could just spend money on more rigs that are essentially collecting energy the same way that solar panels would? And then you go to sell that energy to sustain your everyday lifestyle. And then on the point of selling the sats you bring in to people locally to pay for your electricity costs, I don't think that can be stressed enough, because there's no reason to take any non-KYC sats that you bring in and go to some exchange and to offload those. I think it's almost as important as plugging in the miner. If you're going to sell any of those sats you bring in, you better find somebody that you have a personal relationship with, a peer-to-peer relationship that you can offload those to. And then I guess not even or more on the technical side, if you're taking those sats you bring in and immediately going and selling them to an exchange, well, you better have those separate from the rest of your stack. Otherwise, those are no longer non-KYC sats.
Yep. No, that's good. That's important. And I totally agree with that. I mean, I think we need to get back to this idea of localism, or, well, I say things in kind of a collectivist manner a lot of times, but what I think it's important, to get back to localism and thinking about the people around me. And that's something that I want to do and have been very intentional with over the past couple of years. And I think, it's just, I want to see the people around me in my direct circles empowered as much as possible. And having non-KYC Bitcoin is one of the most powerful tools you can have right now. And yeah, those are really good tips you outlined. And yeah, solar panels are dumb. They're just not very efficient. They're really expensive, and you can just subsidize your entire energy costs with Bitcoin mining for the most part. I mean,
I see Zorn's comment that solar panels ROI is like 10 years. I think I was looking at these numbers a couple of months ago. I think the best state average in the US is 13 years ROI. And then from there, it goes to the worst is like 17 or 18. But on the localism topic, I think a misconception that a lot of people have with localism is that it needs to be like in your neighborhood. But I think in today's age with the internet, everything being digital, localism can also mean your close inner circle of people that you communicate over the internet with.
Yep.
And I think that's in a lot of ways more powerful than the people you're in direct physical contact with. Yeah.
especially if you're using pseudonyms too, and nobody really knows each other, but based on reputation. But yeah, that's a really good point, because I chatted with Shishi on this, and I'll probably be trading with him in the future to get seeds, to grow plants, and you can create those networks not based on like, this is like how we break down the state and how we break down borders, ultimately is interacting and creating economies, across borders, and across geographic distance. I think that's a great point.
So with Shishi, I never knew worm farms were such a big thing. I heard a podcast with him recently with I forget what the worm something, but I started looking into it. It's super interesting.
Yeah, I need to get some worms. I need help breaking down my compost. I just dumped a ton of stuff in there. I'm starting another one. I need some worms.
Got to start collecting leaves. I don't know if there's leaves in the desert, but
I've got tons of stuff out here. I've got grass. I've got all sorts of weeds, and yeah. No, I mean I think like my property is exceptionally fertile because people had been farming it before, and had been kind of that organic mindset. So it's really obnoxious for managing weeds, but worm castings.
That's it. Worm castings. It's basically worm shit.
Yeah, that's dope.
It's the best fertilizer ever, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think what, it comes down to, ultimately is like, when I look at mining, I look at things like Compass, and, I don't want to like shit on them as an organization, but, because I don't know enough to do that. But I don't feel comfortable with the idea of spending that much money to have somebody hold, my Asic. And I think it's the same exact concept of putting my Bitcoin in BlockFi. It just doesn't seem worth it.
So I will shit on Compass. They're extremely dishonest. I think they represent their product in an extremely dishonest way. It was last week in a spaces with the CEO. So the Russia mining operation, they've been touting the absolute shit out of it because it's like 5 cents a kilowatt hour or something like that. Well, he explained that it's a third party that owns and operates this warehouse. Compass gets an order for a miner to get plugged in the Russia facility. Somebody pays them 12, 14 grand for this unit to plug it in, sign this power contract. Well, Compass, once they get that order, then they reach out to that third party organization in Russia and say, hey, here's 10 grand or whatever it is. I'm sure they make a little bit of profit there. And they say, here's this money, sign that unit over to this guy that just paid us and plug it in for him and direct the payouts to him. Well, number one, they're in Russia. So how much control does Compass have over a company in that jurisdiction? Probably not a whole lot of leverage. Number two, and I could be wrong on this, but I don't know how clearly that's outlined to the customer, to the person buying this product. Number three, Compass covers themselves in their contract so that essentially no retributions are paid to their customer if there's a delay. So if there's a delay and this doesn't get plugged in, there's an enormous opportunity cost that goes with it. And this opportunity cost is never acknowledged by Compass at all. And I think that's just inherently wrong. Absolutely wrong. And then they offer pre-orders for S19 XPs. Bitmain's historically shipped all new generation miners late. Compass acknowledges that there's a high likelihood of these miners arriving late, yet they still bake no retribution costs in for their customers. And then on top of that, if for some miracle it was delivered early or on time, Compass would only have about 3 weeks to get these things plugged in. We all know what their track record is. as far as getting miners plugged in and turned on. So how likely is it that happen? But the best part of all of it is you have to buy these in a 6-pack bundle and put down $56,000, 56 grand, almost a whole Bitcoin, or it's more than the whole Bitcoin now. And then you have to wait till August to get these goddamn things plugged in. There was a guy on Twitter that put like half of his stack, like 3 Bitcoin, sent it to Compass for miners in July, and he still has had nothing plugged in. And he said if he gets his refund now, it's paid back in USD because that's how the contract's written, and he would lose about 2 Bitcoin. If that's not fucking predatory, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely predatory.
That's pretty bad.
It's predatory. They know the people that sign up with a company like Compass are the ones that aren't 100% bought into this stuff. They just want a way to generate monthly cash flow. And so, they look at this ROI, a year ROI, 14-month ROI. I just got to send this to them. Well, they haven't done enough research, and they're the low-hanging fruit that Compass gets to sign up. And they don't understand how detrimental it is to their essentially their savings, putting this money forward. I think it just bothers the shit out of me. And we're all here to find truth. And it's, in my opinion, the exact fucking opposite. It's deceiving. I could go on. It's almost as bad as shitcoins, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I mean, it kind of gets back to like, you know, the home mining and the local mining. You know, if you can set up a, you know, small, medium-sized setup somewhere around you, it's totally different. And, you know, I think like it's interesting to look for ways to bypass the bullshit, you know, and bypass the exchanges. And it's like, you know, we all know Coinbase sucks. We all know BlockFi sucks. We all know, you know, all of these guys suck. And even if you like I like the guys at Swan Bitcoin, but they're still beholden to the state, and we don't know what they're going to do, especially as they feel threatened in the future. And you could just bypass all of it and do it, you know, yourself, and have certainty around that without having to, you know, get into the situation. Like Zorn said, yeah, he said drop $500 on cloud mining and lost it all, lesson learned. So that's like a notorious scam.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just don't know. Like, you know, they might be good intentioned people, and they might not be intentionally. They might just be running into unintended consequences and trying to, you know, run a PR campaign to like sort it out, and they're just, you know, out of their element on this. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's like how much trust and faith are you going to put in somebody else? Like, the whole idea of Bitcoin is like you don't have to trust anymore. You don't have to rely on these third parties to do things for you. And like, yeah. So titled this "Not Your Asic, Not Your Hash," and I think that should be important. Like, not your keys, not your coins. I think it's a similar attitude to have.
100%. What if you're gonna pay $10,000 plus for a piece of hardware? If you're gonna pay $5,000 plus for a piece of hardware, you need to make sure that that's in your possession. If you're gonna pay $5,000 or $10,000 for anything, you want complete control over it, especially if that thing you're paying that amount of money for is bringing in additional money. Because if you don't have physical control over that, just like if you don't have physical control over your keys, as physical as that is, then it's not yours, period. Somebody else can take it, they can manipulate it, they can ruin it. In the case of miners, they can not plug it in, or it could go down, and then all of a sudden you don't have control over it, so you can't get it plugged back in for 9-10 days. If it's not in your physical possession, then it isn't yours. period.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. So the funny story about this, so Zorn says he has a Butterfly Labs 5 gigahash ASIC. That's pretty sick. Bitcoin miner jalapeno.
So isn't Butterfly Labs, didn't they do some scheme similar to what Compass is working with right now back in like 2014?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what this story is 100%, but I know a guy up in Phoenix that had a pretty serious mining operation and had to pull out of it and got screwed by Butterfly Labs because he had some massive order with them that didn't get shipped for a long time. So it was just money lost, the opportunity cost of not getting them online in time. So that's what I thought.
Okay. And that makes more sense, especially back then, because 6 months later, all of a sudden the rig you ordered isn't even competitive on the marketplace anymore, or a year later.
Yeah. But yeah.
Because the increases in efficiency.
Yeah. That's pretty badass that Zorn has that. Because I thought I was cool because I found a S7 last week, and that's 4 terahash. So I thought I was like really retro.
I've got something. It's not as old, but it's smaller. Oh, here we go. Seen these guys?
Yeah. I almost bought something like that in 2018. They probably still sell stuff like that on Amazon.
Oh, I'm sure. We'll sell anything on Amazon.
I think CoinBeast, there's a CoinBeast article of coins that are more profitable to mine than Bitcoin right now. And that really cracked me up.
Oh, God.
Dude, I've had to explain to so many people why mining shitcoins is a bad idea. Because, like, I think, like, a lot of people, they'll look at it like, oh, man, this miner mines, like, 5 different coins. Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'm still listening.
Yeah, no worries. And it's like, well, there's no guarantee those coins are going to be there in the future. And it's just a really dumb idea. Okay, so Lurk asks, which U.S. exchange do you think controls El Salvador's Bitcoin? Yeah, that's a topic that we should have had on our list, and I guess we can talk about. So, Stoney thinks it's River, and I wouldn't be surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it was Coinbase or Gemini. I know Matt Odell said it wasn't Coinbase.
Who's the company that Sailor holds his coin with? I forget the name of it.
I think it's Coinbase.
Then maybe it's like a subsidiary of Coinbase. There's a name. I can't remember it. I'll look it up. God, I forget it. But I'd never heard of them before. And they're a custodian.
Yeah, I mean, that really got me off on one last night. I was ranting to my girlfriend. Yeah, AK-47 says it's River.
Okay.
You know, River's a good company. I like those guys. Like, what's their CEO? Alex Leishman. Zorn's saying NIDIG. He's wondering if it's NIDIG. I don't think Sailor has NIDIG.
God, I can't remember the name of this company.
The guys that run Chivo Wallet told AK-47. That's interesting. You know, that was a big question of who's developing Chivo. I don't know if that's gotten out there yet in the public.
Well, I don't know if I would consider it a worry yet, but the thing that I hate about these third-party custodians is, in order for what happened to gold not to happen to Bitcoin, where you get a bunch of essentially paper notes redistributed based on holdings that you don't know are there or not. That happens when you park your coins with custodians. The one of the most important things of Bitcoin is the instant settlement. And because of instant settlement, that should incentivize people not to give their coins to third-party custodians. But when you have these enormous institutions, or in El Salvador's case, a country, put their coins or secure their coins with a third-party custodian, that gives a little bit of leadway for potentially down the road an actor to come in and essentially swallow up these third-party custodians that are holding coins in a regulatory fashion and redistribute. Not necessarily redistribute the coins themselves, but redistribute the value based on paper notes. So the incentives play out in a way that shouldn't happen, but the current environment kind of sets in motion this case where people give their coins to these third-party custodians.
Yeah, I mean, there's that aspect of it, but I mean, there was like this whole argument that like El Salvador is now becoming sovereign from the U.S. from the federal, the petrodollar system. And the fact that they're holding the Bitcoin with an American company means that they're in no way sovereign from the petrodollar system, because who is that American company beholden to? The petrodollar.
100%.
And
the petrodollar system, yes.
And so yeah, there's the paper money and the inflation, that can be, or all the bullshit that can happen. I think we're seeing them trying to do this and trying to find ways to do this. They're preventing a spot ETF, which they're I think intentionally trying to use features to suppress the price, because if the price takes off too much right now, everybody's going to run out of the dollar, and I don't think they're going to be able to hold it back forever, because it's so global and distributed. But yeah, we were talking, like Skeef and I were talking about maybe last week or the week before about, what's happening in Nigeria is much more exciting than what's happening in El Salvador right now. And all the attention's on El Salvador, but at the end of the day, it's like, are we empowering? Is the state becoming empowered, or is the government or the individuals becoming empowered? And I think I was talking with you before we started recording about like my theory on Lightning and Chiva Wallet being a surveillance tool. I think I brought this up on this podcast. I mean, it's like there's a war on cash right now, and it's happening globally. And I think that the people in the Zorn says waiting for the country rug pull. Yeah, it could be coming. But there's a war on cash right now. They want to get rid of it because they want to be able to surveil everybody. They want to be able to control everybody. They want to limit what you can do can and can't do with your money. If you have an entirely cash-based economy, and like Tucson is a massive cash-based economy. We have a lot of immigrants. We got a lot of people that can't bank. They don't have debit cards. They all use cash. And you see this when you go into businesses. You go into restaurants. A lot of people predominantly use cash. And I think that's wonderful. I think that is more exciting even than setting people up with OpenNode and them spending Bitcoin because, in many ways it is, fighting the system, and there's no KYC necessarily involved in it. There's no censorship or potential, and there's very little censorship potential, and there's not as much surveillance potential. But you have an entire economy that's operating on cash like El Salvador has been. And what's the best way to upgrade them, quickly to digital money, which they're predominantly going to be using one wallet controlled to a certain extent by the state, and to be able to surveil them. Like, it's just, the timing of it is like really in line what they're trying to do. And I think it was Laser Hodl who was talking about it, about why the Republicans suck in regard to the vax passes, and how, even people like the governor of Texas, don't explicitly come out against the vaccine imperialism is what he's calling it. And, I think it's the same case with Bukele. Like he's not against it. He came out recently and said there's no mandates and it's voluntary, but that doesn't mean that he's like actually fighting these maniacs. And it means that maybe he's just moving a little bit slower and doing a different way of implementing it. So there are things to be concerned, and I think the thing that's amazing when people get into Bitcoin, not because of the meme, but because of actual conflict, or just issues, like they're forced into it because their government is tyrannical and inflating the money simultaneously. They're going to be more prone to using sovereign ways of interacting with the Bitcoin and using open source wallets instead of state wallets, or they're not even going to have the option for state wallets. And I think those people are going to be really powerful. And it's kind of like who's a better Bitcoiner at the end of the day, the NIM, like Stony Bitson or Mike Alfred. Like what are the goals here? Are we promoting sovereignty? Or are we promoting a bunch of people owning Bitcoin on Robinhood? What's actually going to help people and move us in the direction that matters, I think. So, yeah.
Well, I think on that question you posed earlier, is this really helping individual sovereignty or is this helping state control? I think as far as a ban goes or regulatory laws and rules, I think lenient policies on Bitcoin could open the door for state capture. You mentioned Nigeria. They banned it. We saw what happened. The individual was glorified. But you look at a place like El Salvador where it's widely accepted, and you can see that potentially there's a use there for the state to capture financial transactions, to kind of oversee things and erode the use of cash. And so in a very weird way, I think a ban of Bitcoin in the US would actually be a good thing.
Yes.
It would force people to take control of their own keys. No questions asked. The only way to interact with the protocol would to be holding your own keys. And I think the lenient rules on it opens the door for third parties to take control of those UTXOs. And I think there's a definite risk there.
Yeah. No, I've got one last thought, and then on that, and then Skeef is in our spaces.
Skeef.
So, I mean, this is the difference between the anarchist and the statist. So the anarchist goal is not to have a better government. The anarchist goal is to eliminate the government. And so what is going to be more likely for people to wake up and say, and this isn't an argument to encourage totalitarianism in any way, that people wake up out of their slumber and do something about it. But a more tyrannical government at the end of the day, when they actually show their true colors and it becomes more apparent to more people, is going to actually promote liberty more, especially when you couple that with the most powerful freedom technology, that now people have an out from the insanity. And so and that kind of goes into like, the idea of the ban, ultimately being better because, versus the lenient policies, like the more that people buy into the state legitimate, like we've had people come on here multiple times talking about like how we need to call our politicians and how we need to, primary, bad politicians around Bitcoin. It's like, no, the answer is not the state in any way, shape, or form. It's the individual. It's empowering the individual and making it more powerful, where the state, it becomes incredibly expensive. And it's about educating people on the idea that you can build roads and schools without coercion and, all the other stuff. And that, explaining that human liberty is really attainable. It's not just attainable, but it's the natural order of things. This is the way that, we're meant to live and be. But for these, man, I'm really at a loss of words tonight. I keep on stumbling and forgetting.
Well, I think it's absolutely fucking bullshit that the same people pandering to these politicians go out and they tout, oh, the incentive structure is messed up. No matter what we do, these people just want to get reelected, blah, blah, blah. And then they turn around and they go fucking pander to these politicians. It's ironic as hell. It's absolutely ironic. And I think it shows a weakness and it shows a lack of principle.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to like the great man theory. And it's because people have such little self-esteem that they believe that they need somebody to sit over them and rule them, ultimately that I need this person to direct me, is kind of what it comes in. And it comes from, the state instilling this in us, that there's this belief that we need rulers essentially. But yeah, that's like, I think that's part of the process of like building up people's confidence. Like with Bitcoin, it's like when you're onboarding somebody, you show them you can have this wallet, you can operate without having. And I've gotten away from suggesting people use exchanges. Like I just sell people on home mining, right off the bat. You can buy this $500 machine. You can at Tucson energy cost earn 50 cents a day profit and just DCA through your electric company. And I think people are seeing that as really powerful, and you don't have to put in any financial information. Like I think people hate KYC. They don't really realize that ultimately, but when I'm like, hey, you should sign up for Cash App to buy Bitcoin on it. Like what? I have to put my driver's license in. I have to put my social. I have to do this bullshit. Like people hate it. And I think it's really powerful, but yeah. Skeef, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm back home now.
Nice. You recovering from Janet Yellen?
Yeah, I drank too much of her bathwater. I forgot what we ended up going with, but yeah, I either drank too much of Janet Yellen's bathwater or I got a bad case of climate change.
I think both. And you accidentally got injected with the Moderna jab.
Oh yeah, and then my 5th booster was causing some heart problems too.
Yeah.
Is that winter vagina healing up?
It's honestly, it's still a little rough. Still walking a little funny. Let's put it that way.
Well, don't be out there playing any soccer anytime soon.
Okay. But yeah, no, on a serious note, I really like what you guys are saying about like why these people, I don't know, just like why they have so little. I definitely agree. It's a lack of confidence in themselves. It's a lack of all that, but it's also, to me, it's like it's a really profound lack of understanding of what Bitcoin is and what it offers. And like that's what I always try to get across to people who are trying to get me to donate to politicians or call my congressman or any of that horse shit, is just that they, in my opinion, they have the power dynamic completely backwards. Like they have this idea that we need to be on our knees, sucking off Ted Cruz or whoever. And it's, like something I tell people is like, if I ever had the misfortune of finding myself in a conversation with a politician, I would say, here's how it plays out. Here's what's coming. There's a tsunami of change that's going to completely obsolete everything that you know. Like you right now have a fantastic opportunity to get on your knees and pray to Bitcoin, pray to Satoshi, however you want to phrase it, or you can get in line for, a really bad set of events that I shouldn't say on a YouTube live stream, and it's just, I don't know. Like I can't imagine having much more than that to say to a politician. But
well, you never want to warn them what's happening. I think this is like the key.
Well, I think even if you do, they're not going to believe it.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Maybe they're less likely to respond to it if you warn them than like, oh, some crazy person.
I think you can contribute pandering to politicians to a lack of conviction as well.
I like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just like it's unbelievable to me. Like, people can't see like how evil the state is, and it drives me crazy when people say America is the greatest country in the world, and because of the context of this statement, a lot of times, like, you can say that, and you can say that regionally, you know, and you're suggesting like the culture and, you know, the natural resources, you know, are what have driven this place to be really special. But people tend to, you know, say that statement meaning like as a result of the government, as a result of the Constitution, which is not true in the slightest. And I think it's looking for ways to kind of reframe that. Yeah. Yeah. That post that None Your Business had today was pretty wild with the Australian concentration camps. Did you see that, Don?
No, I didn't see it. What
Well,
was it?
some models were posting pictures, so I heard those concentration camps were fine because somebody posted pictures on Instagram of some chick in a bikini. So my understanding is it's not a problem anymore.
Aren't they rolling them to these camps in military caravans?
Well, this one he was like in like a private charter bus. But yeah, I've heard that too.
Okay.
Yeah. They have to use buses and not trains because, you know, trains have too much of a history for riding people to camps.
Boxcars.
Gosh, yeah, it's just one thing that's been insane is watching a lot of the public's reaction in the corporate press to it, where they're trying to frame it as voluntary camps, like you go there voluntary. And I was, you know, they're doing this in, I guess they're building camps now in Canada, so it's happening on our border, and
yeah, they can get fucked with that.
Yeah.
And if you're over, I forget what the deadline is, but if you're over the age of 12, you can't get on a plane in Canada without a vaccine pretty soon. Over the age of 12.
Jesus.
Yeah, but what people don't realize is that our borders are completely unsecured. Like, if anyone really wants to go to the U.S., like, they can take a walk.
Oh yeah, you can get into northern Idaho by hiking.
Yeah. I feel bad for my friends in Canada. Soren.
Then the lakes are another one. Like, one person with a submarine could get so many people out of Canada just by one of those giant ass lakes.
Yeah. But I guess, you know, like it's coming to the US and it's inevitable, and I don't think there's a ton we can do to stop it other than just make it really difficult for them to implement and just act like cats, like where they have to hurt us, and it's just impossible for them. But I think, you know, I started reading Man's Search for Meaning for like the 6th time the other day, because I think that's like the perfect book for a time like this, of like, you know, ultimately like freedom comes not just from like I can do whatever I want but from a mental attitude of, you know, personal ownership over your life. And it's like I can control my thoughts and I can control my opinions. And I think, you know, they're intentionally trying to oh yeah, I'll get to what Lurk's saying here in a second. But yeah, they're trying to turn us all insane. And, you know, for the critical thinkers out there, it's really difficult right now to just be inundated with this nonsense and to see the blatant hypocrisy, you know, right there in our face. And it's extremely demoralizing. I think that's intentional. And I think Laser Huddle was talking about that with Marty Bent. And, you know, this comes down to kind of detaching and like the agorist idea of just like counter economics and removing yourself from the system as much as possible. It's not just, you know, empowering individually for you, but it's also, I think, extremely healthy from a mental standpoint of just not having to be subjected to the bullshit of like, I need to go into the store and wear a mask, or, you know, I need to go to this concert and show my test or vax or, you know, whatever. And I refuse to do that bullshit. But yeah, okay. Did you guys see in the chat what Lurk sent us?
I did. I don't know anything about that.
I don't either. So
Skeef?
I didn't realize it was the co-founder of F2 Pool, but Lurk, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the guy that said, what can I do to help on his funding thing. So I guess maybe because one of the things he said is that Luke Dash Jr. said was basically, you know, even if you can't contribute, like just like he requested, like if there was a Bitcoin company that his whole family could be on their insurance. And I just looked at it real briefly. Maybe Lurk saw more of it, but it looked like maybe F2 Pool was taking him up on that. And I put it in the chat, but you know, he's absolutely, you know, fucking crazy. Like he thinks masturbation is murder, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, like what I put in the chat is that he contributes more to Bitcoin in 5 minutes than I will in my entire life. And that's just a fact.
yeah, that's interesting. So, yeah, I haven't been tracking the other pools, but it seems like Slush is popping off a little bit.
Popping. It's almost up to 10 exahash, and it was shit. It almost seems like they've been gaining an exahash a week.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's crazy.
Bullish
Absolutely crazy.
It probably helps that every S9 that comes out of Kaboom has brains pre-installed on it, and that's all going to Slush.
I've been seeing a lot of people wanting to buy S9s recently, but not a whole lot of people selling them.
Yeah. Oh,
it's interesting.
Yeah, if you buy one from Kaboom, you're not getting one till like January, February, maybe longer. I did find a guy on Reddit that was selling a bunch of S9s though.
I just found the tweet Lurk was talking about. It was a different one than what I saw. So Luke Dash Jr. said, you know, his funding thing, and then the co-founder of F2 Pool said, "Give me an address, I will send you 1 Bitcoin." Luke Dash Jr. posted an address, and then he tweeted out the transaction ID, sending him a whole Bitcoin.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that's dope.
Good for that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how F2 Pool's doing.
Oh my god! And the wallet it's from has 9,000 Bitcoin. Holy shit! Oh my god! What a flex! Holy shit! God damn! Holy fuck! Yeah, let me. I'll see if I can be not retarded enough to post that to this space here. Jesus Christ.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
So, Skeef, I think one of the memes that we need to start, or well, not that we need to, but I think would be good to start promoting is that dump your solar panels for Bitcoin miners to subsidize your energy costs out here.
Yeah. There was, I don't know who was on Bitcoin Kindergarten last week, but we were joking around. Well, so initially it was, so basically it was just like just trying to think of like a fun troll to do. And so we're talking about getting people like saying that memers are more important than developers. And so we need to support open source Photoshop developers, not core developers. And then decided that would, like a lot of people probably wouldn't get the joke and would create too much backlash. So like I did a public donation to that GIMP, just like, you know, $20 or whatever, maybe 30, I don't know what it was. But to they just post a static address and just like I'll find the tweet, but it was just like a stupid, you know, I value memers. Like what we need to do is support open source Photoshop developers because they're ending central banking, like all this nonsense.
Oh my goodness.
I can dig that because I've been trying to get into the meme game a bit more recently.
Because it started out, people were talking about, they're like, man, because usually like open source stuff is, you know, it's not as good as the premium stuff you pay for, but like with Photoshop stuff, it's like apparently it's like 1% is good. And so people are like, well, why isn't it better? And so it just, quickly devolved into, it's because we don't support open source Photoshop developers enough.
All you need is like Adobe Photoshop for your phone. You're good to go.
Yeah. What's really sad about that is you could probably get more funding for open source Photoshop right now than you can for Bitcoin development. If you crowdfunded it realistically.
I don't know if I don't have permission or if I'm just too stupid. But I don't know how to get it onto this space. But Tucson, I just tagged you on there. Oh, there we go.
I invited you to co-host. So.
I might be able to. All right, maybe I can post it on there now. Yeah, but he fucking sent it from a wallet with 9,000 Bitcoin.
That's pretty badass. Shout out to Chun in South Africa. One of the things I was trolling Don on a little bit earlier was, I think a pretty funny troll would be to come out as a Bitmain maximalist, because there's a bunch of what's miner maxis out there, just to be controversial.
Completely support Jihan and go after all these guys.
Jihan's
Such a bad
reformed.
look.
Jihan reformed. He repented.
Such a bad look.
Man.
Skeef, do you know anything about this this Tor, the malicious Tor servers?
Not really. I saw no, not really. I saw a little bit about it. I know. I mean, that's always been the speculation that that's how they got Roth, was that they were running these Tor relays and Tor servers, and that they, I guess one speculation I heard is that that's how they got Roth, and then also they have to be really selective with how they use it, because it's such a, like when the NSA comes up with a new exploit, they don't just fucking use it right away on some, schlub. Like, they use it on some really, really high level target. And so that's the theory that I've heard, is that that's what they did with what they can do with Tor. But I frankly don't use Tor a ton, and am certainly not super, super knowledgeable on the innards of how it all works.
So I guess my question after all this would be, is there a way to identify which servers and relays are malicious and mitigate it? And I don't know if there is a way or there isn't a way, but I think it's extremely concerning.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that's been talked about for a while, is that is it? Yeah, I think it's Tor. Like, it's always been central to their model, or central to like the functioning of it, that the U.S. government, the NSA, is not directly part of their threat model. Like, I don't. That's been, as long as I've known about it, that's been kind of my baseline understanding, is that it's incredibly powerful, incredibly useful. It's a fantastic upgrade for most people. But if the NSA is in your threat model, you're kind of fucked, period, whether you use Tor or not, is my understanding yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. That makes me think of, what was that movie about the guy that came up with the computer that broke the Nazis' encryption in World War II? The Enigma. It's probably
that was Beautiful Mind, right? John Nash.
Was it Beautiful Mind? Maybe. No.
I believe.
Maybe.
Enigma. I believe it was Beautiful Mind. I don't know.
No, that was a different one. Enigma was
whatever. Was it the one with Benedict Cumberbatch?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I forget the name of it. I know which movie you're talking about, though.
Yeah, it was like the closet gay guy that ends up being a war hero, and
Yeah.
then because being gay was illegal, they turned him into a vegetable after. Yeah, pretty wild movie, but yeah, I mean, it was kind of a similar concept. Like, they couldn't get out and bust everybody, lest everybody. Yeah, Don. I saw that as a headline. I didn't read into it much, but how did they discover that exploit potentially?
I don't know how they discovered it. I know that in the discovery, they found out it's been going on since 2017, but they identified that the same person was responsible for all of these same series of start, middle, and end points. As far as your connection getting relayed. And I don't know how they identified that, but they found out it's been going on for a while, which I think is, I don't know, who knows how much they were collecting in the past 4 or almost 5 years. Now, who they go after and use that information against is one thing, but who knows what they've archived. I think that's kind of the scary portion of it.
Yeah.
Imitation Game was the movie.
Yep, that's what it was.
Yep, that's it.
Ocean's 11. That's what Zart said. No, it wasn't Ocean's 11. Shout out to Tyler Perry.
Shout out Medea.
I need to go and watch that. I don't know who those guys were, but they were hilarious. Yeah, no, that and this kind of goes to the argument of like I am starting to understand the Catherine Austin Fitts argument that digital everything is bad, for this reason, is because it can ultimately be exploited. And I don't think it's a solution to anything, because I don't think going back to the Stone Age is really fixing anything, or if you use cash only versus Bitcoin, I don't think that's a solution at all, because you don't build any economic power by holding cash. But yeah.
Well, I think in the digital realm, the only thing that's proved itself tried and true to this point is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so anything beyond that, there's always a risk involved. And honestly, I think that could be another argument against BIP 300, which we haven't talked about yet, but we were talking about a little bit before we got on. But it creates another attack vector, whether that be incentive based or not. I think the more you expand the digital capability, the less attack surface there is, or the more attack surface there is, and that increases risk.
Shout out to Ethereum. Yeah, no, keep Bitcoin simple on the base layer for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still don't really understand why people want BIP 300. Have you looked into that anymore, Skeef? No, maybe we lost him.
Right, sorry, looked into what? I was just about to do a shit post on this flex from the F2 pool guy.
BIP 300.
Oh yeah, fucking hate BIP 300. What about it?
Don and I were talking earlier about how the argument for it, he just said now, is that it increases the Bitcoin attack vector, and why
big time
stuff like that's stupid.
Yeah, it's Paul Stork, whatever his name is, he blocked me because he basically asked, what's your problem with BIP 300? And I responded, and I'll find the tweet in a little bit, but I said basically, anytime I want to show somebody how hilariously stupid BIP 300 is, I just send them to your website and your interviews, because you're a disingenuous motherfucker and you have a lot of stupid ideas. And it's like, there's this graphic on there that's like, the reason we need BIP 300 is because altcoins are going to take over otherwise. And it's the classic. It's like there's all this economic activity happening on, NFTs aren't being traded on Bitcoin, and that's a problem. And, Ethereum's getting this and Solana's getting that. And if we want to compete, then we need to bring all that shit on the main chain. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like, that's stupid. If you take that seriously, you're an idiot. And especially like with him in general, he'll constantly and that's why I don't even send people, and I really do. Like, if I'm talking to somebody about BIP 300, I just send them straight to Paul's stuff, because I'm like, if you listen to this guy and you think he has a fucking clue what he's talking about, or he's an honest actor, then I can't help you, because I listen to that guy and I read his stuff and I'm like, oh, this guy's clearly completely retarded. Interesting. Okay. And it's just, to me, it's a lot of the same problem as what we're talking about with the political stuff. Is it's these people that have a very, very weak understanding of how powerful Bitcoin is and how, like, what it offers. And so they're always getting, I mean, Jeremy Rubin's another one. Like, I went to his Plebfi in Austin thing at not knowing, a ton about him ahead of time. And there was a panel of NFT shilling. There was all this, like, this is happening on Ethereum. We need to get that onto Bitcoin. And it's like, clearly it's Udi was there. Like, there's a lot of Udi's arguments. And it's a lot of FOMO. In my opinion, it's a lot of FOMO about being left out of the Silicon Valley circle jerk. And the people that still value that completely just morally and intellectually bankrupt system, there's still a lot of people that are envious of it, which is unfortunate. And I don't have a lot for them. And I don't know. So Paul blocked me after that, so I haven't talked to him since then. But
Yeah.
Not like I talked to him a lot before. But
Yeah. So Zorn says, well, I guess I'm a dummy. I thought BIP 300 is interesting. I'll give it a look at it again. Side chains are interesting. It's just the drive chains change incentives, essentially, for the miners.
And a slightly less inflammatory version of what I'm saying would be that, these people can do all the experimentation they want. They can test out all kinds of different things. You think Zcash, Paul's a big fan of Zcash, fine. Like, you think Zcash is awesome, cool, go for it. Do all of that stuff without a change to core. And that was, like, the serious conversations I've had, our discussions or whatever, that's been my main contention, because they want, in my opinion, they're piggybacking on Taproot to try to slam in another soft fork to get drive chains on. And it's like, hold on, go fuck yourself. There's a whole bunch of new security assumptions. He would absolutely disagree with this, but it without a doubt changes miner incentives, which is a really, really big deal. And it's just like adding a lot of uncertainty, a lot of potential attack vectors. And the argument straight out of Paul's mouth is because there's all this amazing stuff happening on altcoins, and we need to bring that into Bitcoin. And it's an extremely, it's a bunch of terrible trade-offs for an extremely weak reason, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's absolute ridiculous. Skeef, I pulled up that chart that you were talking about. The first point on it is defeat. An altcoin defeats Bitcoin via better tech, marketing, partnerships, etc., and the Bitcoin project fails. Another point on that list is cult. Bitcoiners become overconfident and complacent, leading to a culture of stasis and eventual destruction by black swan event.
Exactly.
They sound like arguments that are posted on, like, a fucking SafeMoon website.
Yeah.
Honestly, they're along the lines with shitcoin marketing.
It is. It's total shitcoin.
It's like, what problem does this solve? And there really hasn't been a good explanation of one that I've seen. And if you're willing to take the risk of changing any type of incentives or making any change to the Bitcoin core code, then there better be a damn good problem that is solved.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what we did in that episode when we shit on BIP 300 was just go through the list, and like the proposals too are just silly. They want to build a different Ethereum on top of Bitcoin. They want to build a Bitcoin Cash with higher blocks on Bitcoin as a side chain, and it's like the goals aren't really worthwhile. It's and
they're like a really weak, I think, point that they make, because that's in my opinion, they have nothing to come back to, because they're what they like to do is say, oh well, you're just a narrow-minded maxi, blah blah, all this stuff we've heard a million times. And what I tell them is like, do literally whatever you want, any kind of fucking make a side chain, do some sort of liquid alternative, do all kinds of crazy stuff, bigger blocks, Zcash shit, whatever you want to do, any of it. Totally, it's a voluntary system. It's open. You can settle on the main chain. Literally nobody is stopping you. But if you want to do it with a soft fork to Core, you can absolutely go fuck yourself immediately. And I, consider that a massive social attack vector. And the reason they don't like that is because they know the only way they can get their set of ideas in is through coercion, is through a soft fork to Core that, requires that, if I want to run Core, then now that whatever shitty addition they made is now running in my Core node. And it's like, well, if we have to do it without a soft fork, well, then we have to actually convince people to use our shit. And it's like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And no one's going to do that because most people aren't retarded enough to agree with you.
Beautiful.
And that's the whole point, right? Is finding consensus. So if they're bitching about the fact that people need to agree with what they're proposing, and that's a bad thing in their mind, then from the start, from the beginning, that should be a non-starter.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of room for collectivism in Bitcoin.
No. Here's one. Do you guys think Bitcoin never ossifies? If so, when?
Never what?
Or ever ossifies, reaches ossification where there's no more changes being made.
I don't think so. I mean, it could be the case, but
I think it will. I don't know when, but like, for example, like say 100 years down the road, I have a really, really hard time seeing any kind of significant change coming in. Like once it's the baseline, I mean, it's at some point it becomes at some point it becomes as static as like the meter or the kilogram or something. It's just like, this is what it is. It's never going to change. Anything you want different from what's possible now, you better figure out how to do it on top of or beside of Bitcoin, but not within Bitcoin itself. But I don't know. Like I know, like Francis Pouliot is a big one who, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he would go so far as to say it might be time to ossify right now. And there's a lot of people that no longer even think SegWit was a good idea, that even that wasn't a valid change. So, and that was all before my time. So I kind of tap out of that because I don't want to do Monday morning quarterback coming in 2 years after all these people that actually did the work.
You didn't have a Bitcoin Talk account, so yeah, no, that's a good point.
I think sooner the better.
That's a really sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, the interesting take that SegWit was a bad idea. That is really interesting. Because ultimately, like, SegWit was pushed forward in response to the big blockers. People trying to take over the network. It was almost, in some ways, a compromise with them. So, that's interesting.
Well, I think that
they hated SegWit, though.
I think future changes pose a risk because the more changes that happen, I think it becomes easier in the majority's mind to allow another future change to happen. And over time, I can see the criticism somewhat drawing down. It's almost not quite the same situation, but similar to how Bit 300 is trying to piggyback off of the Taproot implementation. They think it's created an ease in people's mind that changes are okay. And so they're trying to take advantage of that, or potentially trying to take advantage of that and push something else through. I think over a longer term, that same thing could happen, the more changes that occur. I think the sooner the better.
I just saw Zorn's comment. He said, I use Bull Bitcoin in Canada. Francis Polio is cool by me. Yeah, I have absolutely nothing but good things to say about Francis. Huge fan. Had the pleasure of being around him in person quite a few times. And yeah, love that guy for sure.
Yeah. And kind of all of this goes back to Alex Fetsky's article on the remnant and selective adoption. You know, it's like, it's a waste of time to go out and try and convince the masses, you know, that are not going to make informed decisions on this and don't have, like, I almost feel like there's something to be said about celebrating Ethereum in the sense of, like, I had a whole new point of view of Ethereum after reading the Block Size Wars, because it pulled a lot of the big blockers out. And, like, I mean, you imagine, like, all these idiots on Bitcoin, you know, just trying to propose all their stupid ideas and trying to build their stupid ideas on Bitcoin and go out there. I mean, it's, yeah, whatever. Why Lurk says, dude, I must be a closet big blocker. I wonder what that means.
Paul. Yeah. No, he's a closet shitcoiner, in my opinion.
Oh.
I put him in the category of probably not a state actor, but if it came out that he was, I wouldn't be terribly surprised.
Gotcha. Well, on the topic of Zcash and Paul, did you guys see Barry Silbert's nonsense?
Yes.
That made me very happy to see that. I hope Barry Silbert buys a fuck ton of Zcash.
He will. He bought like 85 million or something, but he's been roped in the shit coins for years.
That was so fun. Skeef, did you see that?
Yeah, Zcash going to 1,500. I don't even know what it's at today, but I'm assuming that's a pretty big increase.
Zcash is at $1,500.
No, he's saying I saw a tweet from him that he said Zcash is going to 1,500.
Oh.
I don't know what it's at today, but
yeah, I mean, again, like, yes, that could be true. That could be a great prediction, but you're measuring it in dollars. A can of Coke could go to $20.
You stacking Coke?
Not particularly. I think bullets, though. Like, if you're interested in stacking actual things, don't not precious metals, but bullets are the way to go. But
stack brass and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, anyways, we're at about 2 hours. Don, do you have a sponsor for us tonight? Compass Mining.
Yeah, I'd probably say Whit Gibbs is the sponsor with his absolutely outstanding prediction that mining profitability isn't going to change for 4 years. I mean, I think that's state of the art. He should get maybe like a Nobel Prize or some type of scientific award for those great future predictions. Shout out Compass Mining.
Shout out Compass Mining. I think we're going to stick with Kraken. Great place. The best shitcoin casino in the world. Go there. Promise to never get Lightning implemented. they did list Shiba Inu. So if you want to have fun staying poor, Shiba Inu is on Kraken.
And I would say we should go ahead and schedule a Toxic Airwaves for exactly when those S19 XPs go online for Compass. And we can go ahead and I'd say we can go ahead and set that in stone. 'Cause it's definitely not getting delayed.
Yeah.
So let's just plan on doing a space that day, and we'll be doing a space while the machines are going online. So it's definitely not getting delayed.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't think I've ever been so excited for something in my life. Can I send you $56,000, Skeef? You can just hold it until they go online, since we know it's going to happen.
Well, and just the other day, I was thinking, price is probably about to rip over the next 6, 8, 10, 12 months. And so I could hold Bitcoin in cold storage, or I could give it to Compass and only have the dollar value of that towards something that's definitely going to be delayed, potentially for a very long time. And to me, that's an obvious trade-off. So as soon as we get off this, I'm going to send more than a coin to Compass for that. So it should be good.
Yeah, that's
Great.
beautiful.
Great decision.
I'm feeling a lot less confident about my prediction that hash rate was going to drop, though it's still in play. I'll say that I made that prediction, but I just thought about it a little bit more, about watching how many S19s are floating through Kaboom racks and coming online. It's yeah, I don't know, but yeah, Compass mining, the intellectually honest way to go. Not your keys, or sorry, not your ASIC, not your hash rate, but in this case, they're worth trusting. Shout out Dirtbags Bar, best bar in Tucson, best place. Weinicus, you came in right at the end, dude. Best place to meet your future ex-wife. And I have a real genuine shout out, Arizona Beer House. I'm gonna be hosting meetups there in the future. I've hosted meetups there before. Really solid group of people that aren't maniacs. So that's all I'll say about them. But yeah. Well, thanks for doing this, Don. This is fun.
Yeah,
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me, man.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again. Skeef, what do you think about doing a California show?
That'd be badass. Yeah, out at maybe I'm doing a podcast with John Chanot. He joined for 30 seconds and then dropped here tonight at one point. But yeah, he and I were just talking about how fucking stupid on-chain metrics and TA is. And
no, it's not.
Oh yeah, well,
It's really smart.
I noticed there was a star by the moon tonight, and I don't know which star it is, and I'm not really good at moon phases, but I'm pretty sure that means Bitcoin's about to rip. So should be. I'm thinking it means 80K by the morning would be my guess.
Jerome Powell was wearing a blue tie at the press conference, and so that means that the markets are going to dip a little bit more. He's feeling bearish. Oh, we lost your audio, Don. I don't know what happened. Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Sort of. I think we're on your computer now. We stand strong with TA on the show. Should we bring Dennis Porter back? I've been missing those Glassnode screenshots. What do you think, Skeef?
That's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, it's are we still putting his name on our podcast? I know it saves him a little bit of trouble because usually he has to put his own name on other people's podcasts. So yeah, I just think maybe it might save him just a little bit of trouble if we went ahead and put his name on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a bad idea. Are you back, Don?
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Let's go. What I was saying is there was a 9.5 mile per hour southeast wind, and Dennis Porter told me that that means no doubt Skeef's star prediction of 80K tomorrow is correct.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tweet that out now, and if we don't hit 80K by tomorrow, then I'll just delete the tweet.
Donna's saying there's some Bitcoiner deleted tweet Telegram. I got
It's gold.
Yeah, that's 58K forever. That's where we're stuck. The price of F-15s are gonna have to come down to 58K. That's what's gonna have to happen. Alrighty, well, we'll keep you posted if we do a California show. We'll be out there this weekend. Sort of. That's cool that you're doing a podcast with John. Dope dude. Big thanks for Don for coming on.
Cheers, boys.
Shout out to the chat. Chat is great as always. And yeah. Don't have fun staying poor. Host your own miners.
All right. See you guys later.
See you.
We'll see you. Plug them in. Plug them in.